Polygamy. It's against the law, but should it be? Should we care what happens between consenting adults, that a man has this many wives?
I don't think it's any of their business.
Polygamy. It's called a victimless crime.
Clearly, there are many more important crimes to pursue.
But what about when a child wants to be a wife? Listen to her story. She proposed to this man when she was 10.
I wanted to marry him, and I asked my father.
Her father said yes, and she became his 8th wife. Is that a victimless crime? Where do you draw the line? John Stossel with a provocative report. Who's the victim here?
It is against the law in this country for a man to have more than one wife, but polygamy is practiced openly in certain states. Some people say it's a victimless crime, and they wonder why anyone should care what happens between consenting adults in the privacy of their own home. Tonight, John Stossel takes us inside a strange world where married men go to the altar again and again and again, and their wives live happily together ever after.
On picturesque Lake Powell in southern Utah, 61-year-old Alex Joseph is living the good life. Much of what makes it good, he says, is the fact that he has 8 wives. He also has 20 children and at least 27 grandchildren.
If you don't like children, there's no reason to do it. If you don't enjoy the company of women, there's no reason to do it.
Now, what Joseph is doing is clearly illegal. The law says you can't have more than one wife. But Joseph and his wives argue that since no one's complaining about what they've done, since no one complains she's a victim of this crime, then what they're doing is none of the government's business.
It isn't the business of the state. What right does the state have to dictate morality?
It is. Bring it back.
Still, there are other so-called victimless crimes: gambling, drug use, prostitution. And people are routinely arrested for breaking those laws, even when no victim complains. But with this crime, plural marriage, no one seems to be worried about the police.
We don't have any secret police. We don't have any bedroom police in the United States.
Actually, some would say we do. But in Joseph's case, even though over the years he's had as many as 23 wives, no one's tried to put him in jail.
It's just a pure myth. There's no law against it. If there was, I certainly wouldn't have been allowed to serve as a public official for 10 years.
In this town, he used to be the mayor.
You know, while people were coming around telling me I was breaking the law, I was hiring the police department.
Federal police didn't leave him alone.
Thanks.
When he was about to marry Boudica, her parents called the FBI.
My parents were sure that it was another Charles Manson and that he had hypnotized me. And so they went after trying to stop it with a vengeance. They sent the FBI down on a kidnapping charge. We were selling health foods, and they sent the FDA down saying that he was keeping us high on ginseng.
But after investigating, authorities filed no charges and haven't since.
How are you going to investigate? How do you get people to testify? Are you going to be peeking into bedroom windows trying to prove what's going on in the privacy of someone's home? That's appalling to most people.
Utah Assistant Attorney General Reed Richards says authorities are reluctant to prosecute even admitted cases of polygamy.
Clearly, there are many more important crimes to pursue, and it would be a matter of trying to decide, is it worth spending our time on this case or on an armed robbery or a murder or a rape?
So in Utah and northern Arizona, tens of thousands of people break the law and get away with it. Many say they do it for religious reasons. 100 years ago, the Mormon Church, in response to a Supreme Court decision, stopped advocating polygamy. But fundamentalist Mormons like Reverend Jim Harmston say the mainstream church was wrong to give in to American law. Harmston has 8 wives. No one's trying to put him in jail either.
In fact, I hold a monthly meeting with the state police, and we frequently talk about this business of plural marriage. They have no interest in it.
These other men have several wives, too.
In America, this is supposed to be illegal.
Well, if enforcement of the law was put in place again today, they would have to put all the homosexual relationships in jail. They would have to put everyone cheating on their spouse in jail, according to the terms of the words in the law.
Bart Melstrom married 5 women. They call themselves sister wives and take care of their children together. The women agree with their husband that the law should butt out.
I don't think the government should stick its nose in all the places it does.
But the government says, we know best. This is wrong.
How do they know it's best? Have they come and spoke with me? Do they know what's best for my child? Do they know what's best for these other women?
The government could lock you up.
We're willing to take that chance.
Do you know anyone who's been arrested or even hassled by the police?
Yes, I do. Roy Potter up in the Salt Lake Valley.
Roy Potter, a police officer, was fired for having 3 wives, something he at first denied.
I didn't feel like I should answer straightforwardly at that point. I did admit to a few things, but said basically that my personal life wasn't anybody's business.
The police said he couldn't enforce the law if he was breaking it. Potter said he wasn't hurting anyone and that the law violated his rights. He appealed his dismissal all the way to the Supreme Court, but he lost. 2 of his wives left him during that long legal battle. Now he's security director at a shopping mall. Potter's the only person we could find who's been punished in recent years. Yet polygamy is against the law.
The law is on the books and could be used. It hasn't been used, and there's no indication that it will be in the near future.
One reason the government may be reluctant to crack down is what happened last time there was a crackdown. In 1953, saying it had to save the children, the state of Arizona sent carloads of armed police into the polygamous community of Short Creek, calling it a cancer. They arrested every man, woman, and child they found. They then forcibly took 263 children from their parents and put them in state homes or foster care, some for up to 3 years. Many fathers were sent to prison. At first, the media sided with authorities, reporting that police were protecting children from a dangerous cult. But enthusiasm for this kind of protection faded as people learned more about what happened during this crackdown. Vera Black was told she could get her children back only if she disavowed plural marriage.
They said all I would have to do is sign my name to a paper that I would deny my belief, and that I could just do that. That's all I need to do, and I could keep them. Just sign it away, and that's all. They expected me to feel good about it. I would not deny my religion.
As a result, she and others were separated from their children for 2 years. As more people started seeing pictures of crying children being taken from their equally distressed mothers, public opinion began to change. The press started suggesting that the authorities, by demanding that polygamists sign away their rights to get custody of their children again, were in fact hurting more children than they helped. Under pressure, authorities then relented and returned the children to their parents. Today, Short Creek, now called Colorado City, is home to many polygamous families. Police leave them alone.
Why would anybody imagine that the state owned marriage?
Joseph isn't worried about being arrested, even though the county prosecutor is known to be tough on crime.
And I've got a 100% conviction rate. I'm very proud of it, and I don't intend to taint it.
She says she wouldn't prosecute Joseph even if the state ordered her to.
I will not prosecute victimless crimes. I'll just tell them, too bad.
She says she wouldn't prosecute him even if she were not one of Joseph's wives. She married him 10 years ago. Which wife is she?
Let's see, what am I? He had 5 when I married him, including my 2 best friends.
Doesn't that at least mean that she and her friends committed adultery? Isn't that against the law?
Not in Utah. Utah's never been big on adultery. I don't know why, except that everybody does it.
Still, while some may argue that this is a victimless crime when consenting adults willingly enter into this kind of contract, consenting and adults are the key words here. Some people have accused the polygamists of seducing children. Alex Joseph once accepted a marriage proposal from this 10-year-old.
I wanted to marry him, and I asked my father.
Her father said yes. He lived in a polygamous community, too. Why would such a little girl want to marry someone 4 times her age?
Because I couldn't think of anybody else who I wanted to marry.
I made up my mind early.
Today, Dawn, now 27, says she and Alex didn't consummate the marriage till she was 16. She and his other wives see nothing wrong with what she chose to do.
I think women can decide at a very young age who they want to marry. I mean, Isaac married Rebecca when she was 7 years old. It worked out.
Unless I'm hurting that person, I don't believe it's any of their business. I mean, what does some stranger care what I'm doing?
Because we strangers have more reason to care when children are involved. How could 10-year-old Dawn really consent? Of course, that raises the tough question, at what age can she consent? What is an adult? State laws say 20-year-olds are not adult enough to drink alcohol. But 18-year-olds can serve on juries and go to war. 16-year-olds can drive. When you're adult enough to marry depends on the opinions of local authorities. In Michigan, you have to be at least 18. In Pennsylvania, just 14. Here in Utah, it's 16 or 14 if you get your parents' consent, which means regardless of how offended we may be by the arrangement, if Dawn's being truthful about when the marriage really began, Joseph didn't break the law.
I didn't commit statutory rape that anybody could make a case out of. I'm not a pervert.
Yet many say these people are perverts, taking advantage of naive girls.
Some people would say you're stealing children or you're stealing vulnerable girls who've been influenced by their parents.
Oh, really? I'll take anybody on that one because more than half of my wives are older than I am. And the youngest wife I have is 50.
I believed him. But a few months later, local media reported that Harmston had taken this 16-year-old to be his 9th wife. Harmston denies they're married. He says they're only pledged spiritually.
I had sex with Jim in the Brigham house.
But now one of his former followers sent us tape recordings which suggest there's more to it than spirituality.
Rodney, that little girl is head over tails in love. I mean, she is a queen, that little snot.
You said something that blows my mind. I don't see how a 16-year-old girl can be a good lover. I don't.
Oh, she isn't. But I'll tell you this. She's the most cuddling little thing you ever saw in all your life. She loves to be cuddled.
On the tape, he worries that authorities will find out about the marriage.
If they could prove that I had, it's automatic jail.
Harmston would not agree to another interview with me, though he denies that he's had sex with the 16-year-old. Despite all the local publicity about all this, no charges have been filed against him. And back at Lake Powell, Alex Joseph isn't looking at criminal charges either. And he says he has no reason to change his lifestyle.
If my lifestyle was causing somebody else some grief, I'd voluntarily quit it. But he's not.
His wife agrees and says, so what if she's prosecutor?
I could care less what the U.S. government or the state of Utah thinks about my lifestyle. I could care less.
So if she could care less, should she and her husband be locked up? And what about people who smoke marijuana in their own home, or place an illegal bet on a college game, or help a terminally ill patient commit suicide? Should they all be locked up? Well, John Stossel will examine those questions further tomorrow night in an hour-long ABC News special called Sex, Drugs, and Consenting Adults at 10/9 Central.